Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to tell you about why PhDs are the secret weapon of VC. So why am I qualified for this talk? My name is Manead, and I'm currently pursuing my PhD in cancer biology. I also have a background in chemistry. I've had extensive experience working in VC firms, as well as biotech companies like Regeneron, along with developing business plans and tech-to-market development plans for startups. I came into Chicago Blend Fellowship with the intent to become a VC one day. So my goal during the fellowship is to understand the landscape of VC for PhDs, since I like to know my job prospects. So I started by asking the question, are PhDs being hired at VC firms? I went through the depths of the internet looking for articles in any kind of major search engines. However, there's none. So I decided that I would do my own primary research by conducting a survey. I did this by either talking to the VCs directly in Chicago or through LinkedIn. And I was able to acquire a total of 34 VC firms. These were firms focused on tech, software, climate sustainability, or healthcare biotech. I was most interested in the 9 healthcare biotech-focused VC firms, especially because I come from a background of healthcare. But unfortunately, I immediately learned that only 2 firms out of the 9 hired PhDs, which did not look good for my job prospects. So then I decided to ask the next level question of, okay, even if you don't hire PhDs right now, what would make you hire PhDs? The answers boil down to being 2 main points. The first one is the growing demand for the domain expertise, since scientific technologies are becoming more and more complex. And the second point being that there's a need for interdisciplinary perspective. For example, being able to bring in both business and scientific perspectives. So I decided that PhDs can definitely help out with that. So before I get into too deep of the biotech, I want to explain the challenge in the biotech VC firms. So as a sample set, I used the 9 healthcare biotech-focused VC firms that I showed you earlier. And using PitchBook data, I was able to understand the number of exits they've had in the past couple years. So I would like to also remind you that this does not include bankruptcy or going out of business by startups. And I realized that there were 2 firms that stood out the most, the one with 200 plus exits and more than 40 plus exits. Any guesses as to which firms these were? Well, you guessed it. These are the firms that were hiring PhDs. And to my delight, the firm that had 200 plus exits is the firm that had more than 10 PhDs on their team. And this just proves that the immense opportunity for hiring PhDs. And additionally, hiring PhDs will be very useful for you because pharma and biotech sector is expected to grow to more than $4 trillion by 2033. So if you're LP, wouldn't you want a PhD on your team? However, there is one myth that's been heavily associated with PhDs who just graduated school. That's no other than the myth that PhDs don't have experience. So today, I'd like to debunk that. PhDs come in with many transferable skills to VC, such as critical thinking, problem solving, research analysis, decision making, you can name it. We have it all. And we also have to use data and evidence on a daily basis to support our arguments, to publish our manuscripts, and many more. And many PhD holders have experience in industry, such as working in internships, consulting projects, or having collaborative partners with the pharma industry. And finally, we also have leadership and management skills, since we are mostly involved in nonprofit student organizations or mentoring undergrads as well as incoming PhD students. And finally, the myth that I don't like the most is the fact that PhDs don't have entrepreneurial or business experience. To debunk that, I want to say that many universities across the US have been offering certificate programs or any kind of business classes that cater towards understanding venture capital, investment banking, private equity, and many of these finance sectors. And students are consistently exposed to this. And most importantly, PhDs bring in immense domain expertise to the VC firms, especially in the biotech and healthcare sectors. And many of the PhD founders, as O mentioned before, hold PhDs themselves. So having come from the same background as many of these founders, we're able to better understand the weaknesses and strengths of these startups and also help the founders navigate their journey better. I hope by this point I have convinced you that if you're in healthcare VC, you should hire PhDs. But if I haven't already, these are a few of the examples who are PhDs, but also successful VCs. These include people from A16Z and many more, and this just shows that PhDs are in corporate funds as well as bigger, smaller traditional funds. And I want to prove that PhDs have been and are successful VCs. Okay, right now you might be like, okay, I want to hire PhDs, but how do I screen them? How do I understand their knowledge better? So after talking to VCs in Chicago, I came up with a screening rubric that can help you with exactly that. So for example, if you want someone with the oncology background, if you're making oncology-related investments, you want someone with oncology knowledge. So looking at their track record in terms of publication will be really useful. You also want to look at their industry experience or any kind of prior experience in startups as well as pharma industry. And again, most importantly, you want to gauge their business and scientific perspectives, whether they understand the VC world well or not. And this is not specific to PhDs and VCs, but you also want to make sure that your candidates know the right network of people. For example, do they know the entrepreneurial scientists? Do they have a good connection? And finally, I have seen this trend of giving a case study to the interviewees by venture creation or VC firms, where you would give a potential investment or a company that you're interested in, and you would ask them to see if they can understand the technology really well or if they have the knowledge to explain to you the emerging technologies such as CRISPR-Cas9. Okay, so right now you're like, okay, I want to hire PhDs. How do we do that? So where do you source PhDs for VCs? Chicago Blend is always a good idea, and there are also many fellowships and internships across the country that's doing that, as well as university career fairs, conferences, or any kind of sector-specific events. And finally, also a big shout out to Nucleate Chicago, which is a student org that I'm a part of, and many students there are already involved in venture capital, investment banking, and many of the business sectors. To wrap up, I would like to share this Linktree QR code where you can find the full-length article to my survey that I did on the 34 VC firms, along with the screening rubric and any kind of VC, PhD-related resources. I would like to say a huge thank you and a big shout out to Sal and Joey for running this amazing program, all the Blend Fellows, and Chicago VC community who answered all my questions and made my survey come true. Thank you very much, and please come talk to me if you have any more questions. I'd love to connect.